the brain, the central nervous system, oversees every function of our lives. You have the baby is born with 100 billion neurons. Mind-boggling. You can take them online, it will go up to the moon and come back many times over. That's the potential of every person. And over the years, over 5 years, it forms 1,000 trillion connections. You can't even begin to imagine it. Suffice to say that it's remarkable. Every moment you can learn 10 new units of knowledge and you still haven't even touched the surface. So this is the potential we are talking about. And then I will connect it to MI. So I will share my screen now. So I want you to start with that thought that you have a unique potential. Your child has a unique potential. I've called it roots to grow and wings to fly. Let's start at the beginning. Typically, we may be aware of and enabling only part potential. Now I'm talking about yourself and your child, but since the focus is on children, we'll stick to that. A different perspective to understanding intelligence and competence will enable us better guide the potential of children. How often are we saying, get back to your studies? Oh, but he wants to play. What is he playing? He's drawing something. What is he drawing? Why is he singing? Come back to your books. Finish. There's a test. And we look at things differently. So what is this potential? And what is this intelligence? So one more question for you, for reflection. The question is, what according to you is intelligence? This is only for you. Reflect, make a note. What is intelligence? Got it? Let's go to the beginning. We'll answer our question as we go ahead. Each person, as I said, is born unique. This point I'd like to reiterate over and over again. Is born unique, as someone new, and capable of human excellence. We all have strengths, we all have weaknesses. Point is only some of us actualize our potentials. Many of us don't. Now, what is this potential and how do we actualize it? Typically, we are all born with a certain genetic nature, which is the genes we get from our parents. You all know that. The color of our hair, the height we go to, size, shape of our nose, and certain personality features. Simultaneously, it is the nurture and the parenting. It goes hand in hand, much like you put in a seed. You put in a seed into warm, moist soil, you throw a seed into rough ground, you throw a seed on the wild road or into thorny bushes, which will grow well. Of course, you'll say, well, no more moist soil. Same thing for all of us. So it is the coming together of the parenting with the nature that enables us to reach our potential. Now, what happens if we don't do it? Nature is magnificent. It just keeps, there's enough to go around. If there is poor childcare, if there is disease, if there is trauma, it could be neglect, it could be disability, it could be poverty, it could be so many things. The nature and potential fades away. And this is our concern. No child who has been born a miracle should be allowed to let his thing go. Now we move to the body. Typically we think, what is intelligence? People are more intelligent, less intelligent, and you've written what intelligence is. Now here is something that is different. We say people are more intelligent. We're moving from here to people are unique. And everyone can be a winner. You don't have to be top and bottom. And typically, disability is always at the bottom. So it could be any of this. So when I asked you what comes to you, and if you wrote some of this, well, great for you. You might have written other things too. Any of this. Howard Gardner created the theory of multiple intelligences in the 1980s. It's almost 30 years now. It has revolutionized how we are looking at intelligence and potential. Since we have short time, I'll come to the main points. He studied how the brain develops. He studied how it breaks down. He looked at prodigies. He looked at people with brain damage. And he looked at cultures. So every one of this is done under huge amount of research. For now, I will just share the main ones with you. Can I move this thing out, please? I can't see my screen now. It's something that's it. I just crossed this. Yeah. So what are the intelligences? He posited 8 intelligences, and his key line is, it's not how smart you are, it is how you are smart. So what are these intelligences? There is the linguistic intelligence. The linguistic intelligence is the intelligence of the writers, of the poets, of Shakespeare, of Thiruvalluvar, Tirukkural, people who can effortlessly take words and weave them into poetry, in compositions. A girl, you give her a couple of sentences and she'll pick up this terrific exercise and article and give it to you. Typically, they like doing crosswords, and they are the orators. Very good with words, very good with grammar, very good with syntax. They'll catch you if you make a mistake in your words. Then you have the musical intelligence. This is the intelligence of the composers, of the singers, of the instrumentalists, of the A.R. Rahmans, who can take the same Sarigama Padanisa and create huge things. Howard Gardner gave Mozart as his end state performer. What he did was he took people who were extremely good in life and worked backwards from them. So this is the musical intelligence. And then we have the logical mathematical intelligence. This is the intelligence of the scientists, of the inventors, of the tech whiz kids, of people who are logical, the judges, statisticians, accountants. I had a cousin whose hobby it was to add up the numbers, the digits in a telephone directory. You know, in our times, we didn't have the cell phone. So you'd open the telephone directory and see the numbers. And then you just add them out, six rows altogether. That was his hobby. You'll see the same thing. Each one of them, Howard Gardner says, what is intelligence? It is biopsychological. That is, you're born with it, but it's also the environment, ability to solve problems and create products. It's your ability to solve problems and create products and create problems. So the musical person will sing a song and say, this is Raga Shankarabaranam. Now I'll sing something to tell me what it is. They're constantly going ahead. And when a child does that, you say, shoo, don't do that. Sit down, write your work. You're shifting. We often do that. This is logical, mathematical. Then we move to this fascinating thing. This is spatial intelligence. This is the intelligence of the artists, of the architects, the people who built the Brihadishwara temple, to the people who are, building a new part of the Louvre, who are designing new, way out of the way thinking in buildings. You just give them space and they create. The Hussains and people like Vishwanathan Anand. This is again space. So who are these people? What are they doing? They are either architects, they're interior designers, and working with space and creating stuff. This is your spatial intelligence. And then we have the bodily kinesthetic intelligence. This is a fascinating. This is the intelligence of the sportsmen, the gymnasts, the dancers. Now, how does it become an intelligence? Each intelligence has what he calls core competencies. It's not like if you dance, you've got bodily kinesthetic. No, no, no. People who have bodily kinesthetic intelligence have very good control of their body and can handle objects skillfully. You'll see some people when they walk in, when they keep something, when they do something, every movement is like poetry regularly. They pick up games effortlessly. They don't have to be taught. They just have it. Surgeons, people who use their hand, potters, even your pickpocket. How you use your intelligence is different. The pickpocket, what does he do? He watches and he just walks in front of you. And a gentleman who was a pickpocket told me. And behind him is as his chela. So this chap walks in front and he'll see something. He says, you people are so silly. You're always pointing out where your money is. You're patting your pocket, you're patting your purse. Everyone gets to know where your money is. So they go in and he'll just slice your pocket. You don't even know. And from behind, someone comes in and flicks the money. Now he's done it without even a tear, much the way a remarkable heart surgeon can do a heart surgery. So I'm not going into the ethics of it. That Gardner talks about minds for the future, which is also about ethics woven into everything. So when you're linguistically intelligent, you can make poetry or you can make hate speeches. Musical intelligence, you can create new songs, or you can again do something which is negative. Am I reaching you all, Samantini? Can you stand up for everyone? Is it okay? Yeah. So we've talked about the linguistic, this is called the word smart, this is the music smart, this is the logical mathematical one, which is the logic smart, the spatial, bodily kinesthetic. Then we come to the meat of the hour. This is naturalist intelligence. This is the intelligence of the environmentalist. He put in Charles Darwin. But right now, whether you open the thing and you see Richard Attenborough or whoever, these are the people who work with and for the environment. Right from your veterinarians, your people who take biology, botany, oceanographers, people who work with all the elements, water, air, earth, sky. And that's their passion. So this is your natural. Ayurvedic practitioners. Likewise, in bodily kinesthetic, our yoga. We have, of course, everything that you can talk about is here. So that's a naturalist. And now we come to the two very important intelligences, which are the interpersonal and intrapersonal intelligence. They are the emotional intelligences. They're also called the personal intelligences. The interpersonal intelligence is the intelligence of social activists, of leaders, team people who can take people forward. Gardner says great parents have this skill. What is the core competence of this? People who have interpersonal intelligence are naturally good with people. They can lead them, persuade them, convince them, take them forward. Gardner gave Mahatma Gandhi as the end state performer for this. He said one person with non-violent movement took them forward. You'll always find the heads of all organizations and people who are leading people have this intelligence. And these two together form the EQ. So this is the interpersonal. The hallmarks of these are social skills and empathy. You immediately can tune into another person, vital when you're working with children, your own children. If you don't get them, then no book will tell you. You just have to get it. So this is interpersonal and intra. This is not a philosophical, don't take it that way, but it's very, very important. And it's called the intrapersonal intelligence, the intelligence about ourselves. And some of you might have heard of the marshmallow test. If not, I'll tell you in just a minute. There were very young children in the kindergarten, and I think it was Daniel Goleman. He got a big plate of marshmallows and told them all 3-year-olds, each of you can have one. I'm going out. Each of you can have one marshmallow. But those of you who wait, while I go out and come back, we get 2 each. All 3-4-year-olds all are saying, I want. Everyone's scrambling up. They picked it up and they had it. There were just a few who said we'll wait. And then he went out and saw through a one-way mirror the most beautiful sight. They're leaning forward, they're counting things, they're singing something, they're looking away, controlling themselves. He came back, and of course they got there too. Now, they say that's nothing great. The point is they did a longitudinal study of these children, and they found that at 25, these were the children who were total successes in life. We grew up with this in our country. We've learned about sahenshilta, about calmness, about waiting. Our families allowed for this. It was so naturally woven in. So this stands us in great stead. Parents, again, stand for this. So these together form the 8 intelligences. The linguistic, the musical, the logical mathematical, spatial, bodily kinesthetic, interpersonal, and intra. Now your next question is, how do I find out what I am? Now this is the exciting part of multiple intelligence. You assess it on the job. Someone can say, I'm a naturalist is also great chefs, gardeners, the farmers, agriculturists. They might just say, I am very good at cooking, till you go and taste their food, and then you realize what they say. They might write about it, but they're not able to produce. So it's assessed on the job. There are checklists I have created. There are some checklists, but they only give you an indication. Now, here are the 3 main points, and then we go to the questions. We are all a combination of all of these. For all of us who are regular people, we have a bit of each. Now look back at what you have said and see if you can connect. What did you say you were very good at? Are you able to see a connect? And Simantini, can I have 2 people maybe talking? Someone or someone from you?
We could ask for a few responses on the chat, and you could pick 2 to share, Usha.
Yeah.
Could we have a few? We had a few responses, in fact, on chat. Shall we go back to it?
So should I stop sharing them?
I can read it out to you if you wish.
Yeah, okay.
We had somebody who said they were very good at swimming and reading.
There you are. Now you tell me. Bodily movements, handling of your thing. Swimming is terrific for bodily kinesthetic intelligence. So when you go, so how does MI help? One of the things is you find what you're good at and you pursue it. So when you pursue it, 4 things happen. And that's why MI is so useful. 1, you find what you're good at. And when you find what you're good at, your own self-esteem grows. What is self-esteem? Feeling loved, feeling capable. Now, if you ask that person who's a swimmer, whoever you are, to come and sing, maybe you can't. My husband is brilliant. He's a scientific mind, but he can sing happy birthday to you on the same note. Clueless about tone. Musical intelligence is tone, pitch, rhythm, timbre. Yes, so he just doesn't have it. So all of us are a combination of this. We might have any, typically 3 or 4. The more we have, the more generalists we are. Our children with disability often have 1, and we are always looking for something else and then saying the child doesn't have intelligence. So if you ask, now you take someone who's a great musician and you ask him to speak in his press conference, he may not. You ask a sportsman, some of them now speak very well, but the others may not. You go to a politician who may have none of these skills, but he'll wrap it up by talking so well. He's got people skills. Yeah. So so what happens is they all work together. They work in harmony. You can't see them separately. But actually, when you see, we are all good at something. For instance, you will find that there are some things you can remember effortlessly. It can be directions. It can be a logical sum, or it can be visualizing something, or a tune of a song. Your intelligence is what is going to help you learn. So learning is really, I'll go to that next thing. What is learning? Learning is your ability to take in, remember, recall, do, create. So now different parts of the brain take part, do different things. So, you have different kinds of intelligences. So point is, for our children, there are different size doors and shapes. But typically in schools, now is a terrific time because of the COVID and technology. Naturally, the way children are learning is becoming with the 8 intelligences. Children are learning by discussion, they are learning by reflection, they are using the computer. Often they're at the computer because it gives them all. Just watch. There's word, there's logic, there's color, there's movement, there's music. It's there for them. And their brains are so fast. We of the earlier generations can't keep cope with them, so we wonder what it is. So typically we might be knocking only on the two doors. He can't do his maths, he can't do his maths, he can't do his maths. And you're teaching him in a way that he can't understand. He's not a logical person. He's bodily kinesthetic. Take him out and say, run a few times, hop a few times, come back and do it. He'll get it faster. There are strategies for them. So this for your child, there may be so many avenues. You've got to open it and reach your child and enable it and move away from the fact that, what makes for intelligence. Yeah. So how does intelligences work? How do I know? This is where your role comes in. People have a combination of intelligences. So supposing someone has a bodily kinesthetic intelligence and a musical intelligence and intrapersonal intelligence, naturally he'll go towards music. What do you think he'll go towards? This is where we come in. We've got to give them opportunities. He might go to music. He may go to dance because there's bodily and musical. He may go to sports. He may go to art and craft. So what is our role as parents? To see that we give them opportunities to develop. When we give them these opportunities to develop, it blazes to the person's natural intelligence. So you go right here. They get awards, they get recognition. From here, you give them the support and it reaches out. For this, it is very important that we develop our own inter and intrapersonal intelligence. And that's one intelligence that grows through life. Things that didn't seem possible some few years ago, with age, we all become wiser. So I won't go into this. Just want to tell you that when you have self-esteem, there's better performance and good emotional well-being. Now, if they are all equally connected now, if you're not feeling good, your performance will suffer. This is where your performance will also suffer. So how does MI help here? Find out what the child is good at, allow that to develop. When that develops, his emotional well-being will develop, performance will always. When he's feeling good about what he's doing. So MI can be used in 4 ways. 1, during your learning. 2, as a hobby. 3, it gives you career paths very clearly. If I don't want to be engineer, all your Tare Zameen Par, your 3 idiots, all that. The photography, spatial intelligence, the father is putting him into engineering. So better your emotional, better your performance. So this is the process for us to love and accept our child the way we are, with no pressure to perform. The minute we move away and say whatever the child is doing is his form of intelligence, is showing us, half the behaviors will drop. And often when people say he doesn't do it, it's often because we are telling them what they should do. And in our best interest, we are telling them according to our intelligence, which may not be the child's. So you remove it, no pressure. You give him opportunities to explore. Let him discover. The whole of your growth, your adolescence, is that beautiful period where they learn. They feel capable and they perform better. So when we do this, this is when they start to fly. You've taken their potential, you've given them opportunities. This is when they develop their own identities. And when they have their own identities, they can become independent. capable adults when their foundations are strong. So our role in parenting is to be able to sense that and take it forward. Yeah. So this is what I had as an overview. Of course, he did it for 10 years and I've worked on it for 30. But all of you are so intelligent. Once these thoughts are given, you can take it forward. Yeah. Thank you. Over to you, Usman.
Thank you so much, Usha ji. And we'll be spending the next 30 minutes or so putting across questions to Usha ji that we have received from our audience here in Zoom as well as on YouTube. Please send in your questions on chat. The team here will be collating it and then we'll be putting them across to Usha ji. So, Usha ji, the first question that we have is it possible to be good in many areas of intelligence, or is it only superficial in such cases?
See, when you say how can they be, yes, generalists can be good in many. We have a word for it in Tamil, where you say a person can do 8 things together, listen to music while he's drawing, while he's painting. Each person is unique. You give the opportunity, remember there is potential, remove the stress, let them grow. And if he has got the genes from various things and the opportunity, I'm telling you that there's so much ability. Yeah. Can he have it all? Yes, many people do. You'll see some people who are effortless and all. Good question.
How do we identify the potential or the intelligence of the child? And I'm assuming that would apply to adults as well. And how do we help nurture in that child more than one intelligence?
So you don't have to separate the intelligences at all. Very good question, by the way. Till 5, children only learn through play. They discover. You provide the opportunities, they use their senses, and they discover. So you don't need to do anything. Once you find that there is a particular area where he's very good, typically you send them to learn from someone who's good in that area, someone who's fond of kids. It's a very natural thing. You don't have to do it in... children will automatically tell you, I want to do this. Children today are so, with it, they'll tell you. So you have to take it. And sometimes they might say, I want to try this and this and this before they settle in. Give them that opportunity. You don't have to go for the glamorous thing. It's a child who has got bodily kinesthetic, will want to learn all kinds of dances. He'll pick it up in no time. So when he's growing, provide those opportunities. Schools are doing a lot now. They're trying to get in many things. But a child who is ahead of the others might want a little more. That you should be attentive to.
And would you also say that sometimes we need to kind of wait and allow the child to take the lead? Because very often, like you said, we are leading the whole, we want to do it our way. So we say, you want to go to this class and this class and this class, because then, you want to make sure that you're not taking away those opportunities from your child. But would you, advise a word of caution here and allow the child to lead?
Let the child, in fact, that is a part of parenting. You buy the more, you say, oh, this child is very good with blocks. He's got logical thinking. He can build very much. And you bring the blocks home. You sit down with him and say, come, I'll show you. And then he sits down to play and you say, no, don't put on the left, put on the right, put it a little higher, put it on the left. And you take over the play. In a little while, you say, okay, Appa, you play. So it's often that, and secondly, there's lots of awards coming, there are lots of functions, lots of all that. But just be sure you're not selling the child's childhood. Remember, the child needs to stay happy. Getting the awards and all are secondary to loving or being passionate about what he's doing. Don't put fear. Don't put, it shouldn't become an adult drawn out.
Absolute words to swear by. The child needs to feel loved first before anything else.
Yeah.
Usha ji, the next question is it possible to develop a certain kind of intelligence, or are these intelligences innate?
Very good question. There is a genetic predisposition. because different parts of the brain subserve different functions, and the theory is based on how the brain develops. So if there has not been any input at all and the child doesn't have that, it might be that much more difficult. Is it impossible? No. But to develop it, after a long time, he may reach at a different level. That's it. But children often have such a combination that their uniqueness makes them special. You don't have them to be anyone else. They're wonderful the way they are. Our role is to really just support and take them forward, not to make them someone else.
And I think this naturally leads to the question of how do I identify the intelligence in my child, especially because now we have 8 different kinds, and 2 being, even if you take out the emotional intelligences, which I think are absolutely crucial for every single one of us and present in different degrees, with the other intelligences, how can we identify those?
Excellent.
And if the child has a problem, a developmental delay, struggles with academics, how do you deal with that situation?
WhatsApp chat, go to click on that Facebook chat.
May I request participants to please mute their audios?
Could I have the question again, please?
Sure. So the question arises that given that there are, 6 intelligences apart from the 2 emotional intelligences, which are so innate to all of us in the varying degrees, how is it possible to identify a particular intelligence in our child? Also, what if there is a developmental delay in the child and they struggle with academics? Then how do you kind of,
Yeah.
kind of work with that?
Yeah. Very good question, whoever asked it. Very impressed with all your responses. Question 1, like Simantini said, interpersonal and intrapersonal must be woven into the child's life in whatever he does. And the best examples for these are the parents. The high point of intrapersonal is your zeal, is your self-regulation, self-awareness, motivation. The more the child sees parents doing this, values are caught, not taught. So the child is absorbing it, and it must get woven into whatever he does. It'll come out in the way he speaks, in the way he moves, in the way he interacts. It'll all come. The other 6, go back to my first question to you. What comes to you easily, effortlessly, which you enjoy doing and do very well? Your child will show you. He has homework. He finishes his math sums in 2 minutes. He has a project. He finishes it in 5. And then you tell him to do a language or something else, and then he's sitting on it forever. You will get to see the subjects are a good indicator, the hobbies he chooses, the toys he chooses, even the kind of play he does. If it's a dramatic, the child with interpersonal will always be doing dramatic play. The person with logical things will always be working out with the logical, how can I fix this? The child with spatial intelligence will be going for your jigsaws. The more difficult, the better. The bodily kinesthetic will be dancing all the time. She won't walk. The musical will be doing it. So it's so naturally woven. It's not an apart, sit them down, give them exercises, fix them. It's not like that. It's how we solve. Watch how your child solves a problem. If he can't do something, does he come and ask you? Does he try and write it out? Does he discuss it with a friend? At every point, the child is telling you his intelligences. We, as parents, need to just look out and just absolutely marvel at each child's way of doing it. And the minute he does it and say, wow, shabash, how did you do it? You can be sure next time also he'll do it. Whereas if you say, no, come here, I'll tell you how to do it, or you don't know how to do it, you've given him what is called a cold prickling. Don't expect him to come back to you. Don't expect him to sort his problem next time. So schools, the question of are schools doing it? Schools are doing a lot, I think. Schools are doing it naturally when you do PE and when you do sports, they are trying to do, and they will tell you where the child is standing out. So hobbies is one way it goes. But where it really will help our children is that when we're teaching them and they're learning to see that they have the various ways in which to learn. Sometimes that is not there. Like someone said, it's only logic, we use only logic or language, and then they're not learning. I'd just like to show that one slide for a minute. For all of you, this is important to see. All of you, including everyone watching. We take in information in 8 ways or a combination. When I ask you, what do you remember after seeing this? You might say, I remembered your words. Some might say it's a logic. Some might say it's the rhythm. The people who are musically intelligent can't take a class which is on the same tone. So if I keep talking to you in the same way for the next half an hour, some of the you who are musically intelligent will switch off. So it's that. People who are naturalists, you have to use the Kalakshetra kind to see that the environment, reflection, like I asked you, what do you think? That's what makes a child think. Just telling them doesn't help. Discussion they need, image and visual. See that many things now, if they're going to their games, you see they have all this. A lot of the tech things are this, and bodily movement. When all this happens, this is how learning happens for all of you to know. This is learning. We receive through our senses. I'm giving you a special ed class actually, but it's important for all parents. How do we receive anything from the environment? We receive through our 5 senses and 2 more inner senses. We attend to it, we understand it, we remember it for a short time, then we prioritize it and make a decision, plan an action, and then we act. So a child with spatial intelligence, you give her a piece of paper, she will attend to it, take on something, do something. Before you know it, she'll decide what she wants to do. She'll have created something. Often we don't allow children to create. Reproducing is easier for us. Have you done it? Have you finished it? Like I said. And that said will be limiting their ability. So if all these ways are used, your child will choose that which suits her best. You say, Mama, no, tell me 1, 2, 3, I will understand. Then you know where she's coming from. Or if she says, you're using too many words, it's too confusing you, please draw it out for me. Yeah.
I think a lot of what you just said will resonate a lot with parents because it will bring back words of what their children have said to them while teaching. And we don't realize how powerful these cues are from our children.
They're giving it to you every moment. That's a beautiful thing which Dr. Nancy Cohen taught me. It's just called wait, watch, and wonder. We don't do it. It's my case. It's all of us. We are so eager to make a point. I'm a great parent. I'm doing it. Child doesn't want all this. 20 years later, he won't remember half the food you've made. So it's called wait. Wait. Watch them. Then they look at you. Then they'll smile. And then they'll tell you. We don't give that time. And then we teach communication. You can't teach communication. That is EQ for us. So when we develop, so ask your children, and really, I want you to tell me the truth. They'll tell you a few home truths. You never listen to me. No use telling you anyway, you don't understand. And then bit home truths which come home. But it's good to get them because you get to know. So when you watch them, so you observe them, you'll see them. The child who is a runner will do it effortlessly, and that will come out in all his work. His handwriting will be very good, the way he does it. And each of this becomes really a session, but I'm giving you a thing of whatever. And the minute, if he's not good at something, you use these other approaches, he will learn. He's not getting his math, he's a bodily kinesthetic, use movement, use this, he'll pick it up.
And actually that brings us beautifully to the next question, which asks, how can we integrate multiple intelligence with experiential learning? And pretty much all that you have shared with us these past few minutes is about that. But would you like to add anything to that?
No, multiple intelligence is experiential. You're using your senses. The best way to learn is to, go do it yourself. That they call it ELPS. That's the beginning of learning, actually. Experience, language, picture to symbol. You first have to experience it. And then when the child is going, simple thing like going up in the swing, you say, oh, you're going up in the swing. You're going up in the swing. The child learns, okay, this that I'm sitting on is the swing and I'm going up. This is the movement. Then you draw the picture and then he connects. Then you write the word SWING, he gets it. Child who's never been that, never had the experience, you suddenly give him something. So sometimes somewhere along the way, MI is brilliant for learning, for self-esteem, for managing emotions. If your child is spatially intelligent, he might be very sensitive, not be able to handle his emotions. So you say, shush, keep quiet. I told you, listen to me. He's only going to get more public. You say, go draw something. He'll release those emotions. If he's musical, you just say, go sing a song and listen to music. Good for all of us, by the way. We often do the wrong things. A person who's bodily kinesthetic, instead of saying, go have a run and come back, go play a sport, we say, sit down and say, oh. By the time the third om comes, you throw something at you. And then you say, bad behavior. Because you're using wrong approaches.
Usha ji, you've just brought out the importance of really observing ourselves and finding out what regulation techniques work for us and how that is so closely linked to our intelligences.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the point that each one is so unique. You've been a brilliant singer, and then for various things, your work, your marriage, your thing has given it a back seat. Your music will bring your life back to you. Your Tai Chi or whatever you are, find yourself. And only when your heart is full, that will come out of lack of, that's what you do with parenting matters. It spills over into the child. And the child's own EQ develops.
And that's essentially self-care, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean, we read so much about it, we talk so much about it, but this is the essence of it.
Yeah, because often there's a bit of guilt or wrong thing, you've got to be balanced in it, You've got to be able to do and constantly reflect. That is EQ, self-regulation, self-awareness, self-regulation.
And now a question which often comes to, I think, most parents. Where does the boundary lie between allowing children to explore their capabilities and helping them fulfill their academic requirement?
You allow them to fulfill what they're good at. You'll be able to tell them what they must do. They must get the musts also. You can't indulge them. That is indulgent parent. But if you lay it out and say, I know you are very fond of it and you're doing it very well, but these things also need to be done. Let's do it. Children are very many. But if you deprive them, you're very good at games and sports, but you've not done your homework, so sit the whole day and do double homework, you're not really helping. You've got to watch how you're handling it. It is actually your persuasive skill. It's actually your persuasive skill. Children are wonderful, each one better than the other. And they are yearning for your love. You are the center of their world. You can do so much. And they won't even remember. That's the thing about parenting. They're not going to go around tomorrow and say that. But if you've done the right thing by them, which is their birthrights, you created a great human being.
And our interpersonal skills come into play very strongly here in observing and giving them what they want, so that then we can set boundaries empathetically for whatever their requirements are then.
Yeah.
And another question is that's coming up is, are there standard tests to help identify MI? And if there is an age that is appropriate at which this kind of test can be done?
See, the minute you standardize it, you're using logical math. How do you measure people's skills? Of course, schools have already started it. They have a CBSE and all have a coding. You watch them on the spot. But you watch people on the job. As Gardner had made it, we have checklists. Even I've got a checklist which indicates what you might be good at. And it's very useful for those who don't know at all. But to stamp it and say, this is it, very good, this is, you've got to, because it's constantly changing. So don't try measuring it. But many schools do it to find out possible proclivities the child has, what kind of course will the child take. All these will get indicated by the MI. So checklists are available, but they don't anyone says I'm standardizing them. You're going away from the uniqueness.
And where might parents avail of these checklists, Ushaji? Is there some website they can refer to?
Well, when I conduct workshops, I share the checklist. Yeah, checklists are there.
So they
And
can
if you
just
go to the website, there are, I don't know, yeah, there are checklists.
Okay.
But don't name yourself. It only gives you, it is an indicator of what it is. Yeah.
I think that's very, very crucial for all of us to remember that.
Yeah. Because often it's a combination.
And you were talking about schools now, kind of helping identify this, and it's great if they can work in tandem with parents to really put on the detective hat and identify a child's intelligences. But very often it's very challenging to find a school for a child whose intelligences are other than linguistic or analytical. And here this parent says, especially for a child with SLD. I'm afraid I do not know what SLD.
Specific learning disability. Yes. In fact, that's a very good question. Whoever's working on that, let me go back to the thing about schools. I didn't say schools identify. I say schools are using various approaches. They are taking into, the all-rounded thing. They do give time for all other activities. The older schools, you're absolutely right, use the old chalk and talk, which is only linguistic and this. But I think they're slowly, with the smart boards coming in and computers coming in and children learning on their own. I hope it's kind of, because the child finally learns on his own. No one can teach anybody. There's a classic joke where a teacher walked in, teacher. She came with huge credentials into the classroom, and she finished the class and walked out, and the principal said, "How was it?" She said, "Fantastic, I did such a super job." So principal, very happy, ran to the kids and said, how was the class? They said, "What was the class?" Okay. She said, "No, the teacher said it was very good." And nothing new. So they went back and she asked the teacher, "How was the class?" She said, "I told you it was very good. Look, I'm very, very happy." She said, "But the children said nothing happened." He said, "Yeah, I said I taught. Who said they learned?" So often this is happening. Teacher is teaching, children not learning. This is, you're talking about learning, making those new connections in the brain. And that releases good endorphins, which makes you so happy. So schools don't, some schools even identify, they're more elitist schools. And technology has made many things possible now. Yeah.
Ushaji,
And your second part of the question was?
How can they approach this, especially for a child with specific learning disabilities?
Yeah, with specific learning disabilities, whoever asked it, I'm working very closely with all organizations, actually, including MDA and other organizations, where we are using MI. In fact, for all of us, all of you all who are regular people, we have a harmony between all our intelligences. So we don't even know. We might have certain talents which you haven't used because the others compensate. Children with specific learning disabilities are of average to above average intelligence and yet have difficulties in their academics, and it's a hidden disability, least understood. MI works beautifully with it, and many special centers are using this. So you should get to know about it. Yeah. And these children blaze, they're out of the box thinkers, and now they call it the gift of dyslexia. And these children are really bright. They should be given their opportunities. They have skewed personalities.
Ushaji, we are very close to 8 p.m. and I was wondering if we could extend the question answer time a little bit, if that would be okay with you, because we have a fairly large list and I don't know if you're going to be able to cover all of them, but we'll try and get as many as possible in the next 15 minutes or so.
How sweet of you, Samantani. Honestly, for me, this is like a prayer. If it reaches out to some parent somewhere and it strikes a chord and she takes a step further, Parenting Matters can take the credit for it. I'm happy, whatever the time.
Thank you for your generosity. The next question that's come up is, my child does not seem to have concentration. What can we do?
How old is your child?
We'll just have to guess.
That makes a lot of difference. You're probably teaching her with the wrong thing. If you're saying sit down and learn, some kids can't. In fact, the newer ways now see the different classes have different ways the child sits. Often, if you ask children, studies have shown that repetitive work children find very boring, especially bright ones. It might be the child has a difficulty which has not been understood. So you have to understand before you remember and reproduce. Often we make them do this. So if the child is not sitting down, you need to go back to why. The age is an indicator. That's why I asked for age. We'll be able to help if they want in some other. But you can't do it in one sentence. It depends on the age, the subject, how chronic it is. Does it happen all the time or once in a way? Does it happen when you push? You say 5 more minutes, do 2 more sums. Okay, finish now. 1 more sum. Okay, we're gonna do 1 more, and he's ready to run. It really depends on that.
And very often parents find it hard to be objective about it as well. What we think is concentration may be overload for the child. Like you said, we often approach it from our lens. And,
yes, very true.
So that can be really tricky to answer, like you said, without a little bit more
we need to know that, and if they need any help, they can get back to people who might. They definitely. But if it's a small thing, don't make a big heavy weather out of it. Like I said, marks are not an indicator of the total. And this is a point I was trying to make. There's so much to a child. Marks are very important. Children who are doing well, very good. But everyone doesn't have to only look at, acing your academic.
And these interpersonal and intrapersonal intelligences, which you said are so crucially interwoven with everything that we do. Is there a specific career path that would suit somebody with very high emotional intelligence?
Of course. Any job, if a person also has EQ, he's on top of it. This must be a plus. But by itself, the careers that will go for this will be the psychology, that thing, community service, psychology. And that if they have it with logical mathematical, they might go into the medical line. If they have the artist thing, they might go into that line. It's really with people. I mean, there's a huge possibilities.
This is absolutely fascinating.
Most and least understood and the most fascinating intelligence.
We've been asked if you could suggest some MI inventory for elementary learners. You did mention they would find something on Google, but if there were resources available, maybe a couple of books or so, we could share it with
there's a
participants.
There's an if you just want the minute you don't start measuring your child, that's one thing I'd say. If you're doing that, don't do it. If you want to encourage your child, there are many books. Yes, I can. Your Google will tell you, but go to some Thomas Armstrong, Daniel Goleman, Howard Gardner. You're looking at lots of people just add up names, but Thomas Armstrong has a very nice thing. I think he calls it 7 kinds of. I can give you the book. It's like a workshop. It has a whole lot of activities. Very interesting. Yeah, that would be useful for parents. It is by Thomas Armstrong.
We have put the name of the author in the chat.
Yeah.
Usha ji also mentioned books by Daniel Goleman.
Goleman is he is the thing for EQ, emotional intelligences. Then so many books, anything by Daniel Goleman, very good. At the workplace, working with emotional intelligence. Howard Gardner's basic book is Frames of Mind. That is what was the seminal book which started this.
Frames of Mind. Thank you, Usha ji, for these resources. And this question is of particular interest to me also. Does communicating in mother tongue help in developing intelligences?
Let me give you a fact. In the first year of life, the brain has the ability to absorb the sounds of every living language. We don't give our children that. But they call it motherese. Whatever the mother is comfortable with, the child will just absorb. Children can also pick up language. So there's no hard, fast rule, only do this or only do that. Whatever the mother is comfortable in is the way to go. Normally, it is the mother tongue. You automatically lapse to that. Yeah. You don't say, "Oh, darling," to the baby. You say, "Kanna," something.
I love the link of how you called it mother ease, and then we have mother tongue, and the very
Mother is
close.
including the sounds, because in the first few, the child doesn't make out. He's taking in non-verbal. He's taking your touch. The first thing a child tells is your touch, the smell. He's taking your tone of voice. He can sense your stress. So that's why you'll find that on the day you want to go out for a movie, he doesn't go to sleep. But on the days when you are calm, he is restful as anything. So,
If we neglect a specific area of interest for a child at a very young age, or if you do not rightly stimulate that particular interest or area, is it possible that the intelligence declines over the years?
very good answer. The brain is nature is ruthless. They call it use it or lose it. It's like pruning. You don't use something, it is removed. And I'm telling you, how many of us can speak any languages? Where's it gone? The first year of life, we picked up our mother tongues effortlessly. No one took us to class. Today, after 10 years of learning a foreign language, we're just about scraping through. So, if we have not given that particular area, different parts of the brain serve different functions. So, those functions have not been used. The brain says, okay, now, chalo, leave it. So that does go for a toss. Is it damaged? Is nothing like that. You give the ukam, they give the thing again, it comes back. But it's easier. You think of your long-term memory. You'll remember all the songs or prayers that you learned when you were very young. It may not be so easy now.
So what I'm hearing you say is that even if that's happened at a very young age, providing an environment which encourages the child even now will really help the
It
child.
definitely help, and the EQs grow. That definitely. That has been told. That is very important. The others, like music and all that, you've got a good tutelage, you get a good thing. It's a little more difficult, but yeah, of course. If you have a passion for it, it'll come back. If you're just doing it. It also helps you over emotional things, even for parents. Highs and lows. Go back to yourself. Be yourself.
The last question that we have is, how can I help my child get over a fear of talking with people?
So sweet. Again, how old is the child? I'll tell you. If you tell me his age, it'll help me tell you. I'd be happy to tell you. Often, is he around 3.5, 4? Is he a teenager? What is it? Can that person answer me?
Could we have the answer on chat? If the parent who's asked us this question is here, 25 years.
Oh, 25 years. Does the child have a special condition which has not been recognized?
Teenagers. Oh, I'm sorry, Usha ji. There were two answers. One said 25 years, the other said teenagers.
Teenagers, if they're not making small talk, they're growing up. That's the stage. They say it's like in the chrysalis, their whole personality changes. They're reforming ideas, they're doing some things, and they will change. Allow that personality to change. And if they don't feel like talking, it's okay. Just see that they're not getting into their holes, or they're not getting into any other habits, or they're not going into any kind of distress. That you must make up. But if they're choosing to be independent and not coming and telling you everything, that's a natural part of growing up. And that difference you should be able to make. And a 25-year-old suddenly not communicating sounds a little strange. Has it been there for a while? I think up to 12th he's okay. After that he became like this. Was there any untoward incidents? You should check that out. Often it can be traumatic. If there is a trauma, and you have to be, sometimes when you say trauma, you have to be, the parent is like a bridge and an ambassador for the child. It's very easy when your child is doing well to support. It is when your child needs you that you must be there. If there is a sudden drop, check out. It can be anything, right from, peer bullying to abuse, to change in your making him do a subject he didn't want to, or some other thing. Best is if you can talk to him they'll often tell you. And that's about as much as. And remember, if you give them unconditional love and tell them that when you feel like it, I'm there for you, something seems to be troubling you, and drop it, they'll come. Instead of you trying to pry, don't try prying with her. They won't. But if there's a sudden drop, you must, he might be laboring under a huge thing, you must see. Ma'am, is MI possible to identify in the age group of 2 to 3? No. 2 to 3, give them lovely question. Give them all the, now if you're making them sit in front of the TV, you tell me what intelligence are you using? You're only no body intelligence, no thinking, only receiving. So no language, no music, nothing is happening. You give only opportunities, don't try. It will come naturally. Good answer. By the way, this is an important point for all your parents. 80% of the brain develops in the first 3-4 years of life. 80%, 80. So for all those of us who are thinking, if I give them a good breakfast and it's heavy, okay, and I'm going to work, but if he's not been stimulated, use it or lose it. Second, growth comes at adolescence. So don't measure anything, just provide lots and more. By the way, overstimulation is as bad as understimulation. You're constantly saying, okay, finish this toy, now do this toy. Not required. Let them grow. Enjoy them.
I think I spoke too fast, Ushaji. We have 2 more questions. One question, the first one is, can there be a shift in the kind of intelligence that you possess, or do new intelligences blossom as children grow?
They keep growing. See, you're born with the potential. You don't know what opportunities you're given. And yes, you can keep, you do the checklist yourself over 10 years, you find that you've changed. You're given more opportunities, you'll change. This is not a fixed thing. That's why I said it's not only genetic. There's potential, and different parts of the brain serve different functions. You give more, it grows. Yes. But EQ definitely, but you can't, if you go and do an IQ test, which is standardized, which typically looks at, if you look at what it does, it'll look more at the linguistic and logical mathematical, which for very specific functions, that number may not change. But your intelligence is. Especially if they've not been given opportunities. There was some question on a disability, I remember. Someone said if he doesn't have it.
Would the team just be able to look at the questions once more to ensure we've covered almost all the themes that have come up? And while the team...
but let me tell them one thing. Sure. One of my, what drew me to MI is also that it is very good way of looking at an inclusive population. Regular kids will do very well. You give them more, they'll do very well. You'll identify and you'll find one. But for those who have a difference and those who are, there's neurodiversity, that is if the child has a disability, right from it's SLD or autism or anything else, MI gives you a way to look at what he's good at rather than what he's not good at. That's what drew me to it. It's true for everyone. It's what you are good. It's how you are smart.
And Ushaji, while we look at the specific question that came to your attention, here's one more, which asks, how can a child with naturalistic intelligence be nurtured?
Beautiful question. Go back to the older way of living. They will play with the 2 to 3 years best toys are of course always sand play, water play. If you take him into gardening, you can take him to places where there is nature with animals, farms. Children are so fearless if they move with nature. Actually, if children growing in those rural areas know everything, they know how a cow gives birth, what is happening, what is this policy in Bali, in Nepal, they know everything. Names of trees. Children will lap up. Naturalist intelligence, give them in your own garden, what are the name of the plants? Most of us don't know. I don't know, please. All the plants, all the trees, all that. Every element of nature. So that is one way, right? In your own place. When you're cooking, what are the spices you're using? What is the taste that's coming out? Can you check out what it is? So you're developing that. Children don't need expensive stuff at all. The naturalist intelligence is actually using the environment. Makes you think they won't develop, the thing will develop. Does that answer her question?
I hope so. And I'm afraid we weren't able to find the exact question, but that was, I think, the question that I asked about the child with special learning disability, which you answered earlier. It's potentially that.
Definitely, yeah, they could definitely, there are schools for that. I can send it to Parenting Matters and you could take it from there.
If the parent would like to just send us an email or a WhatsApp message, we'd be happy to share the resource which Ushaji will share with us. Ushaji, one question that's come up repeatedly is, when is Ushaji having a workshop on MI?
I'm going to see, every time I've done it, I've got a lovely team, just like Parenting Matters. Someone calls, we come in, because I've tried to put into, it's only when you start doing it. Now, I said bodily kinesthetic intelligence, go by and try juggling. Take 3 things and try juggling. You want to do it. So it's only when you do it, it's on the job. And suddenly you'll say, wow, play music and listen to all the instruments. Can you make out what the instruments are? And the minute you finish it, can you sing it back? Musical intelligence will do it. Yeah, we'll probably leave it to Parenting Matters to take it forward. And if somewhere else, I'll let you know. Because right now I'm going on to training of trainers. But yes, we have a team, and if someone's interested,
And I think somebody has just voiced my heartfelt thought, wishing PM can partner with Ushaji. So hopefully in the near future, and if something does come up, we will let all of you know.
It's such a lovely thing. It's about only enabling. There's so much good in every one of us. Yeah.
So as we come to the end of the talk, I would just like to quickly sum up what we heard from Ushaji today, and I can only attempt. It started out with a very profound thought that it needs to start with us, really understanding ourselves first. And then Ushaji talked about the remarkable capacity of the brain, and if we don't use it, we lose it. Reiterating the importance of nurture to fulfill the potential that nature blesses us with. And we also looked at the different kinds of intelligences, with each intelligence having its core competencies. And Ushaji beautifully gave us examples of how those core competencies can look as career paths. I think what really stood out for me was, the importance of EQ, that's interpersonal and intrapersonal intelligence, and how crucial it is to each of those other intelligence, and how it's almost like a magnifier effect it has on all of those intelligences. And both of these intelligences grow throughout our life. I think as a parent educator, what was really wonderful for me to hear was, all we need to do in this is to really observe our child, zone in on their natural potential, allow them to show us what they want, and listen to their cues, so that we can then use appropriate strategies to really enhance their strengths. Understanding that we take in information in 8 different ways. So parents put on those detective hats now.
Exactly. You put it on. Open the paper. What do you see? Which is the program that excites you? Switch on the TV. What do you see? The logical mathematical person will say, I think this is happening. The interpersonal person will say, I feel maybe. Even the words we use, we're giving it out so easily, and we are so unique because no one else is like you. No, that's another thing. That happens with children also. And the child is just like us, you'll say, very smart boy, just like me, very smart. I'm very happy with it. I know how to handle it. This other one, I don't know how to handle it. Something is wrong because he's not doing me and I'm not in his own thing. And that's why teaching also goes for it. Absolutely. You summed it up very nicely, very prettily.
And as we close for the evening, I think I'd like to leave parents with the words that you shared: wait, watch, and wonder. And as we do that, we give our children roots to grow and wings to fly. We thank every one of you for joining us here this evening. Thank you very much, Ushaji. It's been an absolutely fantastic one, the time's just flown by, and really heartfelt gratitude for this time that you have spent with us. And thank you to all of us for joining us here this evening. Usha ji, may I welcome you to a breakout room now?
Sure.
Thank you so much.